Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. Before we get started, as you guys can see, this is a very, I'm grateful for this opportunity on tonight. This is a very special broadcast on tonight. We chose to all collaborate and come together to be a blessing and to discuss our angels with you guys and introduce our angels to you through our eyes as their mothers. So tonight is a very special broadcast for you. Again, we ask that you take a moment to share this video, like this video, share it with another parent who's lost a child or a grandparent who's raised a child, auntie, uncle, whoever it may be. Um, just take the time to share this video with anybody who's lost, especially during this time of through this pandemic. We pray that this broadcast bless you, and we pray that you find strength and hope in it, because that's what we all have collaborated to do. And as you guys may see, some of us may mute our mics for background noises just to give each other a chance to speak, but we're all available. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. However, we're on StreamYard. I can't see them, but I can see them on Facebook. So if you're watching via Facebook or YouTube, please put it in the comment section below so that we can reply later on after this broadcast. So with that being said, we're going to give you guys just a quick moment to please like this video and share it for those who you feel may possibly need this during this time. And we thank you guys for taking the time to join us as well. So with that being said, we're going to give you guys just a quick hang on, y'all. We got to turn our phones completely down, even if we respond in the comments, because it's going to automatically pick up. And I don't even see the option where it's share it. Oh, there we go. What you have to do, ladies, if you want to share this. Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. You have to copy the URL in the settings and then share it that way if you guys don't see a share button. Hey, everybody, come on in. Thank you guys for joining us. As you guys can see, the topic tonight is life, love, and loss, or maybe opposite. I'm not sure. I can't remember what I entitled it. But anyway, we just decided, a few of us decided to get together and collaborate together so that we can be a blessing unto you guys. And with that being said, I am Dominique McFarland. I am the founder of Hello Again. And I thank you guys so much for joining us. And my friends have chosen to join me as well. Miss Shonda, Amy, Miss Lana, and Tab. I'm so grateful to have all these ladies with me. I find strength in them because we all lost children. So it's an opportunity to talk to somebody else, or like-minded people who we share the same thing as far as loss. So tonight we're going to get into it. We're going to go in depth with our conversations, and we hope that this blesses you guys. So with that being said, again, I'm Dominique McFarland, and in 2016, I lost both my sons. So tonight, what we're doing is we're going to allow you to step into our lives just for a moment. We're going to introduce our children. I believe I was just telling Shonda that even though that our children have transitioned, I believe they're very much alive than they ever were before. They're just not here in the physical sense. That doesn't make it any easier, but nevertheless, that's the reality. So with that being said, my sons are Mikey and Mayan McFarland. Mikey's he was just mellow and laid back, and he transitioned from this life to the next at the age of 17. He was born July 6, 1999 at 11:04 a.m. He was an easy birth. His birth was easy. Him coming into the world was easy, and his whole life was patterned after that. Now that I think about it, from his birth, the way he came into the world is sort of the way he transitioned out, honestly, and his whole personality surrounded by it. He was laid back, very mellow, very kind, a sweet, gentle soul. He was my big baby. My aunt was my baby, but my Keith was my baby. He loved music, very musically inclined. There's a lot of things that he liked to do, but he was real just quiet, and he was very much an observer. My aunt, the way he came in the world, his personality was the same way. He was a firecracker. He was born like that. I had so much, giving birth to him was kind of complicated because he was trying to come feet first. But they were able to get him to turn the other way, and his cord was wrapped around his neck at the time as well. So I pushed for so long till it actually made my face look distorted. It was swollen. It was just such a hard birth with him. And the way his personality was, you had to watch my because he was rambunctious. He was wild, but he liked to have fun and very expressive. He didn't hold no punches. He gonna tell you how he feel. And in spirit form, they're the same way. Like when for those that are watching, some people might not believe in this, but you mothers gonna concur, I'm sure. We get signs and wonders all the time. And I see everybody head nodding, even though I'm looking at the camera, we get the signs. So that's the way they are in spirit. Their personalities are the same. When my eye comes through, when I feel his presence, it's usually abrupt. Like I can tell when he in the room, I'm like, oh, hey, Scooby, when I can feel him because he just kind of come in and take over. So I can feel that Marquise, when his spirit, when I can feel him, it's more of a gentle kind of settling presence. And I can sense when he's around. So it's the same thing. But what we really wanted to come on tonight, yes, to allow you some insight on our children, to let you guys know, especially our Hello Again parents, that you're not alone. We're all on this journey together. It's just the 5 of us that have chosen to collaborate on tonight. And we will do this again with another set of moms if you guys are willing and would like to come on and introduce your angel to the world and let people see, hey, they were real. That's why I do this unapologetic. I keep all of our babies and children's name out there for this very purpose because they were here. And I want people to remember that Mike East and Mayan was here, that Rashad was here, Paige was here, Bryant was here, Malik was here. They were here, and they made an impact while they were here. And as long as I'm breathing and living, I'm going to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do as far as saying their names. Another thing I want us to touch on tonight, and we all going to get to talk about the different phases and stages of grief and how we deal with stuff, and everybody's different. We all in different places. Especially Mr. Rhonda, today is Brian's heavenly birthday. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about how she's feeling today, how you feel on these anniversaries and their birthdays and holidays and all of that, all of those different things that come into play. This is not no easy journey. You need a team. You need a village to go through this. This is a very emotional journey. I often hear some moms say it's not for the faint. It really ain't. It ain't for nobody, honestly. But it takes a whole lot of everything to get through this. It makes you feel like sometimes you can feel as if you have multiple personalities, but you don't. It's just how grief will do you. Sometimes it'll turn you inside out. One minute you're fine, the next minute you're not. It just depends. Certain smells, I was sharing with Shonda, certain smells can I can see boys from afar walking down the road and their silhouettes and think about my children. So it's just different things. So with that being said, I'm going to let Shonda, she's one of our newest moms. She's 9 months in now. Introduce her angel to us. Tell us a little bit about him and just tell us how you feel.
My name is Chanda and my angel is Rashad. Rashad transitioned on April 28th, so today is 9 months. And it has definitely been a journey. My dad is a pastor, and just in church when people introduce ministers and things like that, my dad always says that the only thing you need to know about them is they were a man of God, is they are a man of God or a woman of God. And I can proudly say that is who Rashad was. Rashad was a strong believer. Rashad loved God. He loved people. He was so intentional, just about everybody he loved. He was supposed to get married in July 10th. And I was so proud that he was so intentional about loving his fiance. That just was a priority for him. His smile when he walked in the room, it just lit up the room. And my own personal pastor, he always says, I felt like Rashad loved me more than he loved anybody else. And I said, Rev, that's how he makes you feel, because he and I talked almost every morning, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And his comment would be, "Good morning, beautiful," or, something to that nature. And I said, Rashad, don't say that, because you probably already told my mama that, and Elise, who was his fiance. And he would say, well, I'm talking to you right now. So he just always made you feel like you were the most important person, no matter, just to know him was to love him. And everybody loved Rashad. And one of the things that I hope that the young people have learned from Rashad is that you can love God and you can have a good time, because Rashad's life was just a ball of fun. Like, around him, just to be around him it just made your day. It just really made your day. And he was almost always in a good mood. I don't know, he was just a happy soul. And like I said, he loved God and he loved people.
Oh, sorry.
I
I'm
can't hear
sorry.
you.
I had to unmute my mic. Thank you so much for giving us some insight on Rashad. This is what I love, because just for a little while we're doing this, I don't know about y'all so far, and I know we're just getting into this video, this live. It makes them feel here just for a minute. It feels normal just to be able to talk about them. And I know we go through different phases and stuff like that. And some people, some parents, some moms that I've spoken to, they're still finding it hard to say their children's names. And that's so normal. Or finding it hard to want to hear other people say their names. But it's healing in their name. And it's no rush. You got to take your time to get where you are, because we're different. And so it's not coming from a judgmental point of view. But for me, I find comfort in that. It lets me know that they're not forgotten. So I appreciate you, Shonda, for even being able to say his name. I honor your son. I honor your angel as well as my own. So thank you for sharing. And we're going to get more in depth in the conversation. So with that being said, Amy, tell us a little bit about your angel and the way you feel.
I feel like I'm the OG of the group. Paige was born in 1993, and she was diagnosed with the most rare form of leukemia in 1997. We actually moved to South Carolina, went to Richland Memorial for her bone marrow transplant, which was her only hope to, I wouldn't even say make it, but to extend her time with us. Without that bone marrow transplant, we were given approximately 6 months. We went on I went on all the major radio stations and news channels locally to get people to join the bone marrow registry in an effort to find a match. But because she was biracial and we were on a very limited time frame, that didn't happen. And Richland Memorial Center for Cancer Research there in Columbia, South Carolina, was the only hospital that could treat us. So we moved there, and we were there 6 months probably total before coming back to Dallas. But our home away from home was like truly the hospitals. They became our extended family. And there were certainly rough times, but there's still times that make me laugh. Just when we were talking, listening tonight, I guess saw her straddling her IV pole and wearing her mask because she was immunosuppressed, and us rolling through the hallways of the hospital trying to find McDonald's so that we could get some French fries here in Dallas, not South Carolina. In Columbia, the nurses loved Paige. Back then, her favorite songs were Toni Braxton and Break My Heart. Keep in mind, y'all, she's like 3.5 at time of diagnosis. She was 3.5. And she celebrated her 4th birthday there in Columbia in the transplant unit. But the nurses got the biggest kick out of her singing Unbreak My Heart by Toni Braxton, top of her lungs. And this was so long ago, I couldn't record. I didn't have a cell phone back then. You had the big monster video camera. So I wasn't able to capture lots of these memories, but I'm certainly thankful that I do remember them. That and Kirk Franklin's Stomp. And she would be in the back seat and she'd raise the roof. That's what she called it. Her little raspy voice. Well, y'all didn't know she was raspy, but she was. she'd be back there, GP, are you with me? So those things can still bring a smile to my face. The flip side, like Dominique said, you might see the silhouette of maybe a boy down the street the same size as yours or whatever that'll make you think of them. Those songs on the radio sometimes make me smile and blow a kiss to heaven. Or even now, we've exceeded 20 years post transition, and they can also bring tears. Mm-hmm. So like Dominique said, there's different stages of grief, and I don't think there's any rhyme or reason. On my testimony about the conference and the group, I state that grief is the never-ending roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I think with this group, we're here to hold each other's hands as you scream, laugh, or cry along that way, because I think you'll experience like all of those emotions, and sometimes it will slap you in the face like a brick wall, out of nowhere. Or you might get that softball. For me, sometimes I don't know what the triggers are, and they vary, because sometimes, like I said, a trigger could bring a smile. Other times it brings like that softball in your throat that makes it hard to swallow, when the elephant feels like it's sitting on your chest. And that's still page past Father's Day of 1999, and I still have those moments. But I've told Dominique before, and I've shared with other moms who may or may not be watching tonight that are here local, I don't believe you ever get over it. And I don't like to say that, because they were our babies. We don't want to forget them. We don't want to forget their time with us. And, I would say even the good times or the bad. I prefer those that make me smile. But in time, I feel like the smiles will exceed the tears. And while I'll never have an answer that makes me happy that she's gone, I certainly find comfort that her passing has served a purpose. And I think that's part of this group.
Absolutely. Amy was saying that she's the OG in the group, her and Miss DeWanda. That's why, as you listen to us talk about our children and kind of be encouraging to those that are watching that might need a pick me up or some inspiration, or kind of give them tips and tools of how do you do this thing? This is hard. You'll notice that Shonda is not just 9 months in, and I picked these moms at first. They volunteered, but it's a reason. Miss DeWanda, son Brian, I'll let her tell it, but her and Amy have been in this a long time, so they have a lot of insight, whereas Shonda is 9 months in, and I'm 5 years, and I'll let Tab tell her story about her angel herself. But me and Tab's connection is different, because we've all been best friends. We've been best friends since junior high school, and our sons, we stayed literally next door to each other. That wasn't planned. It just happened to be we stayed next door. And so our sons would be at each other's houses every few days, especially on the weekend. And my boys would run to her house and eat or snack or play the game with Jalen, and vice versa. And so it's the connections are different, but the pain is great the same. So I just wanted you to see how this thing varies, and how time, I don't say time heal all wounds anymore. I don't believe that, because time will never heal this. We'll get through it. You learn how to live this new normal, but it's not something that you ever going to be cured from. It's no antidote to this. It's only when I leave here and take my last breath and be with them again, and really understand the whole fullness of the plan of how all of this happened. And I won't even say that it's necessarily was the plan of God. I just believe that bad things happen to good people. We're in a fallen world where stuff happens, and God is sovereign, but at the same time, we have to, it's some choices, it's all kinds of stuff that comes into play with how this happens. And I'm being very careful with what I'm saying, because I don't want to confuse anybody, but I don't want to hold back what I believe to be true either, because sometimes we need to see things from a different perspective. Because sometimes as mom, we'll be guilty. We'll lash out at the people we love when we're going through this transition. You want to blame people. If you was this, or if I was this, if I could have went around the block another time, maybe this wouldn't have happened. If I would have for me, if I would have stayed, we would have chosen to stay at a hotel instead of parking, me trying to find a free parking and go to the water right then this wouldn't have happened. It's a lot of what if, what if, what if, what if, and it's a lot of blame. And sometimes that thing gets internal. And what begins to happen is we almost, it's you implode because you got so much in you. And then your family members and friends like, what's wrong? You know, why you acting like this? Or why you shutting down? Or we trying to be there? But some of us are just downright angry. You know, if you're in that anger phase, you're angry and you will lash out because you don't understand and you're trying to make sense of it. And when you can't find somebody to blame, you usually hurt the closest thing to you, unintentional. And so you're not crazy if you're mad all the time. You're not crazy if you started drinking. You're not crazy if you did some stuff that you're not proud of because you're trying to numb it. So that's what tonight's broadcast is about, to put light on this stuff and let you know you're not alone, that you don't have to stay there. And we don't want to fall in substance abuse. We don't want to fall in just doing things inappropriately or sleeping around or whatever the case may be that you're doing to numb this. But sometimes life hurts so bad not to win out you, and you don't know what else to do. So you grab a tangible thing, something you can feel. God, we love him, but we'll get to a place, and I've been there. He's not there physically, and sometimes we're looking for that tangible when you're not grown or as mature. And even if you are mature in the Lord, it still hurt and you still go through some of these changes. Everybody don't, but a lot of people do. So I'm just kind of pinpoint. I'm not saying it's a right or wrong way to grieve because it ain't. I don't know. Everybody is different. So with that being said, Mr. Weiner, you can tell your angel happy birthday for us publicly, and also tell us a little bit of background about Brian. We can't wait to hear what you have to say because you've been in it a long time. So please encourage us on tonight. Hold up, let me unmute you. I think I got you muted. Okay, go ahead.
I am holding my cell phone because I was not set up on the laptop. I had it out, but I didn't have that particular whatever I needed set up.
Me
so
too, Mr.
If I
Weiner.
get shaky, that's why. I just first want to say, when I first saw you, and I do not have one Kleenex, I got a whole box in the other room. When I first came across you on YouTube, Dominique, and I heard your story about your children, I was like, I immediately, spirit to spirit, there was something about you. And I don't know if you remember, I know you've been in contact with a lot of people, but I reached out to you and we ended up having a long conversation about what happened with you and what happened with me. And I am so thankful that out of your tragedies, because you had two to transition, that God took what was so tragic and turned it for something that was so good. So many parents and moms don't have a platform to keep their child alive. And a lot of people don't want to hear about your child that is going on because they don't know how to deal with death. And so I thank you. I thank you for what you're allowing God to do through you. A little bit about Bryant. He was my third child. He was the first two were definitely not planned, but he was the least unplanned. And he came along when my oldest two were 12 and 13. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it any other way. He was very much spoiled, but I had a lot of help. So that was such a plus because the first two were like having twins over 13 months apart. But Brandy's my oldest and Brandon, and then along came Bryant. And he happened to be, as some of you may have seen today, he was born on Super Bowl Sunday. Dallas Cowboys won that day, but that was not how he ended up getting the nickname Cowboy. That was just his love for horses. And when he played, he dressed the whole 9 yards. If he was playing football, well, he had to put on everything. If he was a cowboy, he had to wear it all. And so that was the name he acquired in his life. And Shonda, you were like, she's telling about Bryant too. I mean, when you described your son, that was so Bryant. He loved people and people loved him. And his course through school, he was like everybody's friend. And came to find out after his passing, he passed on March the 25th, 2010. He was a ball player. and my dad had taken him to the ball game, and it was out of town. I didn't go. I was working, and he had asked my dad to pick up the little boy was 5 years old at the time, but he was like family. His name's Tanner. So Tanner and my dad go to Dillon, South Carolina to watch Bryant play ball. And at that time, the children could leave with parents or grandparents. And so Bryant left with my dad and Tanner, and they dropped Tanner off. If any of y'all are familiar with Society Hill, they came through Society Hill to come back to Terrell to drop Tanner off. 2 miles after Tanner was dropped off with his parents, at that time there was road reconstruction going on, and my dad, he veered off the road, and when he come back on the road, Bryant was ejected from the truck, and he immediately passed. And I'm very thankful for that. I found that out after the fact, after the funeral, actually, that his death was immediate. And I learned so much about Bryant in a very short time. I learned, they were having a ball tournament that weekend. Dominique, you're familiar with this. I don't know if they'll do it this year, but they were still having it up through last year. They were able to do it right before COVID hit. And at that ball tournament, when I went out that Saturday to see what was going on, they turned the whole thing in a matter of 24 hours. They turned it in memory of Bryant. And a mother stopped me, and she was telling me she was sorry about what had happened. And she said, I just want to let you know, she said that Bryant give my son a glove. And I thought, well, that's so sweet, and it just really made me feel warm and fuzzy in my heart. And we kept talking, and we were totally on another subject, and she interrupted, and she said, you need to understand something about that glove. And I said, what? And she said, Bryant didn't know. She said, but I didn't have the money to buy Robert a glove. And I was just so floored. I began to learn very, very quickly what a friend he was. I knew him as my son. I saw him around his peers, but there was a lot of details that I didn't know until his passing. Yeah. And he often took up for the bullies. He was for the underdog. And there were kids, and there were some actually, sadly, and it was a good thing though, but they went into counseling because Bryant wasn't going to be with them when they went to Terrell High School. And when I stood, I actually shared some about Bryant. I said, nobody can share about Bryant like I can. And so I wrote Bryant a letter, and I had my standby person with me in the event that I couldn't read it. But I started out with Bryant. He was my teacher, and he taught me about what being a true friend was. I mean, in less than a week, I started to learn really what a friend was and how to stand by somebody. And I'm very thankful I've had people to stand by me through this course of going almost 11 years. And I'd like to say, like I said earlier, remembering our child having the freedom to come to this platform and share briefly. There's many, many stories about Bryant, but the one thing, and like I said, he was like your son, Shonda. He loved people. People loved him. And being able to celebrate his life and being welcomed in that. And but his memory still lives on. I'm gonna share this story, and there's so much I could tell about him. He loved the Lord. And one of his signatures was he drew a lot. And in most all of his drawings, he had a cross. He would incorporate a cross. We had several very brief but important conversations prior to his passing, that I was assured of his salvation. He was not perfect. So I so agreed with that, what you said earlier. But yet he knew Jesus. And there was a little boy, well, he was a little boy before Bryant passed, that Bryant hung around his older brother. And this little boy is now a junior in high school. And I just got a message last month that so touched my heart. And in speaking with the grandmother, I got this picture of a class ring. And on the side of the class ring was a cross. And it had LLB. And then there was a picture of the stone. And I didn't know what it was till I talked to her on the phone. And her grandson, who was probably about 5 years old when Brian died, 5 or 6. And when he chose his ring on his own, he wanted to remember Bryant. And the LLB above the cross is Long Live Bryant. And the stone is half Bryant's birthstone and half his. And
Wow.
it just, this was a little boy. And he, to this day, Bryant had impacted his life, and the cross was what he remembered. And with that being said, I'm going to leave this. Dominique, I know you know, I had a friend, and Dominique is now friends with my friend, but Jenny Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny came to me, and she was at my side. There was a week from the accident to the funeral. And she gave me a 3x5 card, and I'm sharing this. So if anybody, this may be something, a seed you could sow into somebody's life that is eternal. And on this card, she had John 14:27. And it said, Jesus said, my peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, give I you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. For a very, very, very long time, I could not pray. I could not form the words together. I love Jesus, and I could feel his love. I know he was strengthening me through that whole process. I could not form the words to pray, but I could read my card, and I often just read it in my mind and never with the intent of being able to share it out loud like I just did.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, that card, as I kept sowing that word, because that's what I leaned on, was that one verse. That's all it takes is one word from God. And over time, as much as his being separated from him hurt, there was a peace that surpasses all understanding. And I know everybody grieves in their own way. I thank God for the word of God. And that's where I encourage people, go to the word. There's healing in the word of God.
Yes.
Once we know Jesus is our Lord and Savior, we can turn to the balm of Gilead, turn to that word, and there's healing there. And so I encourage you all. And if you didn't get a chance, because I know the link is kind of odd, but what I shared about Psalm 139, put your child's name in that psalm. And it is so powerful. A lady, a grief counselor, shared that with me years ago, early on in my journey. And she encouraged me, put Bryant's name in there. And when I did, that word so came alive. But his time was fashioned, and he was purposed. And even though it was a short 14 years, it was a powerful 14 years. It's still impacting lives today. And I thank you, ladies, for hearing your stories. You encouraged me to keep going and not get in a place of like, well, I don't need to share about Bryant. But yes, we do, because there are other mothers. Unfortunately, there's a lady right here in Chirral that as of yesterday, she lost her second child. Her first child was killed in an automobile accident some years ago. Her second child, her daughter, just died of breast cancer, and it was a very sudden thing. So we have to keep encouraging each other, encourage others. Unfortunately, there'll be others coming in, and that's sadly so because of the world we live in. But I thank you all for giving me a chance to share just a little bit. Sorry for being so wordy.
It's okay.
But I love you ladies, and getting to know the new ones that I don't know, and thank God for virtual.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ms. DeWanna, for sharing. And before Tab gets started, I want to say this right quick. On the flip side to what you were saying about the things that you didn't know about Brian after his transition, I found myself feeling guilty for some of the stuff that I didn't know about my son. Like you was talking about, your son was for the underdog and for, against bullying. I didn't find that out about my aunt until I went on his page, and it was a young girl that he had been encouraging behind the scenes that I never knew about, and another little boy. And, I had no idea, not that I didn't think that he was capable or could. It just was outside of who I know him to be. But
Right.
they all had, all of our children have their personalities outside of our presence. And I think the Lord allowed some of the stuff for us all to find out later after our children transition, especially encouraging things like that, so the blow will be a little bit softer, you know, so we can kind of, it's healing, it's therapeutic. I found so much joy after I found it out. And you know, people inbox me all the time about different stuff about both of them. I didn't know Mike Keys, he was wanting to go to band camp in the summer. I thought it was going for himself, you know, to build up, you know, as far as him being musically inclined, for him to increase his talent or grow to more as far as with music. But he was going tutoring the children who didn't know how to play, or who couldn't play by ear, and teaching them notes, musical notes, and how to just do different stuff with different instruments. I didn't know what he was doing because he was so quiet. I would ask him, how was your day? Or how was band camp? Oh, it was fine. But that's all he would say. So, you know, that stuff like that makes me proud now and able to go forward. And it's just so amazing how God have a tendency of blowing us all kisses when we need it the most, when we find out different information, or we get one of our signs, or one of their peers come and say, man, I miss them. And my friends now, they're in the studio. I just heard a song released the other day. One of his friends or peers did in honor of him, and to hear his name chanting in the song like that, and the beats and everybody singing on the track, and the hook was incredible. I was like, this is dope. He will really, I know he knows about this, and it's just wonderful. It's like, my God, it's a blessing to know that your children have made such an impact with their peers and adults and teachers and neighbors that you would never know. And unfortunately, I wish they were here. And not saying they could have. Maybe some people did tell them that, but I wish they could just really be here to really see, you know, how much they were loved. And I'm sure they know now, but you know, physically it would be nice. That's why my grandma always told me, give me my flowers while I'm here. We need to give everybody their flowers while they live, because once they're gone, they can't hear it in the same way. You can't say that again. If you're sorry about something, say you're sorry. Love on your children that are still on this side, because once they're gone, you can't do it in the same way. That's a hurtful thing. So with that being said, now we're gonna let Tab introduce her angel. And this story, all the stories mean a lot to me, but because we had such a relationship with our boys, it's very, for me, her, when she talks too, it's emotional too, because I watched him grow up and be born, and so it's a lot. So I'll let her tell her story, introduce her angel to you guys. So with that being said, Tab, tell us about your angel and your angel's name, and how you feel to encourage our viewers today.
Okay. My angel his name is Timquan Malik, but we all called him Malik. So we hardly ever called him Timquan. My angel transitioned on May the 31st of 2010. But early on, Malik, from the time Malik was born, he was a fighter, but I didn't think about that until Dominique was talking about her boys just now, that he fought a really hard fight the 4 months into his life. He was born with strep B meningitis, and he stayed in and out the hospital, kind of like, well, Amy, not as much as your baby, but kind of like your baby. We were back and forth in the hospital up until he was about 4 months old. And I was told early when he was a baby that Malik was going to have all kinds of complications, that he wasn't going to be able to walk and function like a normal child would. Well, all of that was a lie. He walked and functioned normally like normal children. Once he got past that 4 months from being in and out the hospital, spinal tap after spinal tap, he was fine after the 4-month-old time period. And Malik also was kind of like Shonda's baby. When she was introducing her baby, it kind of made me think about Malik, because if Malik wasn't nothing else, he was going to be a man after God's own heart. That boy loved the Lord. They called him Deacon Leaky at church.
Yes.
I believe I became saved because he would influence me to go to church. He would influence me to join the choir. He influenced me a lot when it came to Jesus. Malik was just like a special child. It was such an honor just to be his mom. You know, he was almost perfect. I don't know if that's just in my eyes, but to me, he was almost perfect. He didn't give me any trouble. He wasn't a bad kid. He didn't get a whole bunch of spankings or anything like that. He was just a perfect child, you know? And he just loved. He loved Jesus. He loved Jesus. He loved Jesus. I just can't express that enough, that during his transition, that was one of the things that gave me peace, that I know he made it to heaven. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. I know he made it over. It was just, you know, that was one of the things that gave me comfort, even though it was a hard thing to do. I was able to stand even when I didn't want to, because I kept my eyes, you know, on the fact that I know he made it to heaven. Dominique was one of the ones. Like, you want me to tell the whole story now or later?
Whatever you feel comfortable. Whatever
Okay.
you're comfortable with.
Malik's transition happened rather quickly. I dropped him and my middle son, Jalen. They were 5 years apart. I dropped them and my sister off at our local swimming pool. And they were going swimming that weekend because it was opening weekend of the swimming pool that we had locally here in town. And my daughter, she was about, I think Leisha probably was about 3. Yeah, she was about 3. And I took her to a birthday party. So when I dropped them off at the pool, Malik was getting out. Malik and my nephew and my sister and my son was getting out of the truck. I was driving a blue Suburban then, Lord. They were getting out of the truck, and Malik came up to the truck, and he was begging me for money to have for the concession. And the last thing that I said to my son was, "Boy, get away from my truck." You know, just not fussing at him, but gave him the money he wanted and just told him, "Boy, get away from my truck." And me and my daughter, we left and went to the birthday party. My life changed in a matter of 2 hours. You know, I dropped them off at the pool. We went to the birthday party. We were at the birthday party, and I get a devastating phone call from my sister that something had happened. As Dominique said, we've been best friends since junior high school, and she was one of the first people that I called when it happened. You know, I called and said, you know, meet me at the hospital. Don't ask me any questions.
Yeah.
You know, that's just what because I didn't know, I couldn't answer any questions because I didn't know what had really happened. And when I got there and I saw my sister's face and I saw my son's face, and I'm just like, what in the world has happened here? Because it was Memorial Weekend of 2010, and my son and my nephew both were found at the bottom of the swimming pool. Now, this pool was packed with a whole bunch of people, and there were a whole bunch of lifeguards there. So how does 2 teenage boys get found at the bottom of the pool? That's another story. But that's what happened. So I called Dominique and I called 2 more of our friends and said, just meet me at the hospital. Don't ask me no questions, just meet me there. And our stories are similar, but they're not the same. Lots of people wanted to say, y'all could be confident to each other because y'all suffered the same thing. No, we didn't. I lost 1 child. She lost 2. There's a major difference in that. I don't know what that feels like, but Dominique was one of the ones that stood with me through the whole transition, the whole thing. Malik was, my nephew passed that same day. He passed right then. My nephew did. Malik fought until maybe 2 or 3 days after, and then he transitioned over after that. I think the week of the transition, I was in shock. I always call it spiritual Novocaine, or that's what I always called it, because it's almost like you're numb. Like you don't really feel it then, you know, because you're going through the motions and all these people are around and everybody's there, and everybody's saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," and blah blah blah, until you really don't feel it right then. But when that Novocaine starts to wear off,
Man.
it's almost like it takes your breath away.
Yeah.
And I commend Chandra. What's her name? Chandra. When I was 9 months in, I couldn't have done this. I could not. I could barely say his name 9 months in. I didn't want to see pictures. I didn't want to look at nothing. It was just too hard for me at 9 months. I couldn't have done it. So I commend her for being able to even log in and say her baby's name at 9 months, because I couldn't have done that. And right now I can barely look at pictures. I don't have a whole lot of pictures up because I just can't stand to look at them, because it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
Because loss has been great in my life. I lost my mom in 2009. I lost my son and my nephew in 2010. I lost my sister that was at the pool with my son in 2012. And then one of our other friends that stood with me as well through this transition, we just lost her last year.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what it is that you're trying to do, but I don't know why I got chosen. But I mean, here I am, and what do I do? And sometimes I don't know what to do. Sometimes I just want to cover my head up and just lay in the bed. Sometimes I don't want to be bothered with people. Sometimes I want to talk about it. Sometimes I don't, because I was really afraid tonight. I was like, Lord, am I going to be able to talk? Am I going to really do it? Am I going to go forth with it? Because it's almost like you have all those different feelings and all those different emotions that you go through. Like, I've been angry, I've been sad, I think I've been through all 5 stages of grief all in one day.
We all have.
That makes sense,
Yes.
I've dealt with it all in one day before, but it gets easier. Well, I won't say it gets easier. You get to where you can tolerate it a little better sometime. So sometimes I'm all right, and I think about it all the time, but it don't hit me as hard as it does other times. Sometimes it knocks the wind out of me, and sometimes it doesn't. It all depends. I almost feel like sometimes that I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wasn't I just happy like a couple of hours ago, and now I'm balled up in the back room crying my eyes out? Like, does this happen to other people? Like, am I the only one that this happens to? Because it makes you feel like that you're isolated.
It does.
It makes you feel like that it happens to nobody but you. It makes you feel like that your baby was the only one that transitioned. It just makes you feel like you're singled out, But during the week of Malik's transition, I didn't want, and I told Dominique this, I said, I don't want people feeling sorry for me, and I don't want a pity party. I want this to be a week of ministry, because I knew that that's what Malik would have wanted. He would have wanted people to come to Jesus. And during the funeral, people did get saved during the funeral. And I said, I want people to worship, and I want people to know that he made it over, and that's something to celebrate. And we did celebrate. Even though we celebrated, it still hurt.
It does.
It still was, the pain was still there. Some of the anger was still there, but it was still something to celebrate because he made it over. And I get sometimes, I get my little signs that come like little red birds. That's when I know Malik is around. The red birds will come, they'll sit on my fence, and sometimes there'll be multiple ones. I'm like, Lord, there go Malik, Tank, and Scooby. All right there together. Those are all, I'm like, because all 3 of these birds, they just sitting on the fence. Usually if you go out the door and the birds will fly away, but they'll just sit there. And I was like, yeah, that's just the boys. And it makes my heart smile, but then it makes me sad at the same time.
Yeah.
It makes me sad at the same time. And then I still sometimes battle with, when you have to make the decision to pull the plug out, lack of a better term. I battle with that still today. Did I make the right decision? Did I make the right decision? Did I do the right thing? Should I have waited a little bit longer? And I battle with that still. And I mean, I'm just being real. I battle with that.
I did too.
And I'm just like, well, what if I would have waited another day? Or what if I would have waited another week? Or what if I would have, could something else have happened? Could it have turned around? Or all the what ifs that you go through. And at the same time, even being a Christian, it's hard. It's hard. But thank God I make it. And thank God I'm making it. And thank God I didn't turn into a crackhead. Thank God I didn't lose my mind. Thank God I didn't commit suicide because I thought about it. Just being real. You know, I thought about it. Not that I want to hurt myself, but I want the pain to go away because the pain is real. And some people will think, well, you know, it's been 10 years for you, or it's been 20 years, or it's been however long. You should be over it by now. Well, have you ever walked a day in my shoes? Or have you had a turn? Because if you have, or if you, whenever you do, and I don't want this on nobody, but that's the worst thing that you can tell a grieving parent is that you should be over it by now. Because that is so not true. Or the worst thing you can tell them is, I understand what you're going through. Well, do you? But you're going home with all of your children. But you understand what I'm going through? That's one of the dumbest things you could ever say.
I agree.
And I don't like to hear people say that. And if I'm making anybody feel any kind of way, I'm sorry, but that's just where I'm at with that. If you've never walked this road before, then you can't possibly understand how nobody feels. Because it's not an easy road to walk, and I don't know why we walk it. I don't know why we have to walk it. But all at the same time, I still trust God.
Yes.
And I'm still a believer.
I think that's good to have, because I don't think people always realize that. And I've made posts on Facebook in that regard too. Like, there is no timeline to grief. And
Right.
we know the pain and wish it upon no one. Because, baby, you know, I'll bite my tongue because I'll be cursing with this faithful room. That for the people that say that, I'm like, how dare you? If that happened to your child, there's no amount of money that I would bet that you're not still going to shed tears 20, 30, 40 years. It doesn't matter. Like, it's unnatural for a parent to bury their baby, regardless of the age.
I had a counselor.
Whether they were 5 or 20, there are babies.
My first counselor said the reason why losing a child is different than losing a parent or a spouse or brother or sister is because it's out of order.
Mm-hmm.
All those other relationships, that's just an expectation that you may lose one of them, but not a child. The child, in order, should be burying the parent.
Right. And another thing that might bring some people a little bit of comfort that I thought of, Joanna, when actually you were speaking. Like, for me, I could always say Paige's name. I say Paige versus Paige, but I could always say her name. I couldn't say, like, I called it the D word. I couldn't say death or that she had died. She passed. She became an angel.
I still can't.
And I don't remember when I did, Dominique. I don't remember, but it was years, like, for real. And being angry or not wanting to go to church, or, you know, not knowing what to pray. And I say, you can just call his name, like, you know, and then it's been years ago, but I finally kind of found comfort in just the simple song, Jesus Loves Me. As simple as that was. And Paige sent it to me because she used to sing it. And she sent it to me more than once. But, you know, like, of course, yes, he loves me, but now I'm forgetting it without singing it all. But little ones to him belong. And while it sucks and it hurts like no other pain we will endure, and we know my health history sucks. So I've been through some physical pain, but nothing like that heartache.
Yes.
But and especially if we talk about, like, all of our children, they had that faith. And if they love that song, then the reality is we're all his children. And I went to a concert, and it was on Paige's birthday. Well, September 10th. I mean, she had already passed. And Dominique, AJ was supposed to, well, tab 2, AJ was supposed to go with me, and she backed it. And I had the tickets, and I didn't care. And I don't know things by myself, but I was determined. It was the gospel, I think Gospel of Faith, Women of Faith, something, all ladies gospel, well-known artist at one of the big mega churches here. And I went by myself, and I praised him, and I cried. And Shirley Caesar sang, or she was one of the artists, and she had shared her testimony about her son's passing. And after the end, they all had their little tables and CDs or whatever. And I went, and I don't even remember the exact words, but I had shared, like, I knew I needed to be there, and that it was my daughter's birthday, and she was an angel. She had passed, and she came out from behind the table, and she cried, and we hugged, and I was saying, Jesus loves me, to Shirley Caesar. And I don't know. I just, again, like, when you don't know the words, you call his name, you call your baby's name, or you say that verse, or you sing Jesus loves me. And there's really no explanation why, what are we, 21 going on 22 years post transition, that I can still have my smile, other than God and Paige.
Yeah.
They don't want to see us sad. It's going to happen. We're going to cry. They know that we'll miss them, but then, like, find those signs or recognize those signs. And, Dominique, I was thinking today, and I gotta say, I was a little bit jealous because I don't feel like Paige comes to me near as often as Dominique's boys do.
They always do.
But you got to recognize it. And, like, what I've learned over the years is not to question it. Because I used to think it was, my mommy imagination or my heart wanting to hear her, wanting a sign. And they weren't always good signs. Like, sometimes it's a slideshow that I can't shut off. And sometimes it's, it's when she was sick. It's her final gasp of air. It's not always happy tears. But Dominique's boys come to me. And when you question it, then you're going to find, like, that solidification that, oh, yeah, that was Paige, or, that just whomever, blow the kiss to heaven, just embrace it, and then cry again. It's okay to be bipolar, Tab. In this circumstance, not in general.
Right.
And I never wanted medication either for those ups and downs. That's why I just say it's a roller coaster ride, and we can lean on each other and or him and get through. We passed in 99, so I'm right there with you, Tab. I have those days. They're not as common. When I have them, they hit me hard,
Right.
and it wipes you out. Like, that emotional fatigue is a fatigue like no other.
Yes.
I was just telling Dominique, I think it was about a week ago, that I was someplace I was giving God praise for all the things that he has done, because without God, I wouldn't have been able to sit here on this computer and talk about this right now. And I was saying how good God was, and I was giving him all the praise and giving him all the glory. And this lady came up to me, and she said, let me ask you a question. And I said, okay. And she said to me, how can you praise God like you do, and he took your baby and he took my baby? Because her baby transitioned as well. And when she said that to me, it shocked me. And I was just like, oh my God. So my answer to her was, and I don't know if everybody's going to agree, and you don't have to agree, but this is just how I feel. But when she said that to me, I said, well, first off, I don't believe that God took my baby. I said, the Bible says that only the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So I don't believe that the same God that gives you peace, the same God that gives you strength, the same God that wakes you up every day, the same God that walks with you through this transition is the same God that took your baby, and he's going to walk with you through it. Isn't that a double standard?
Yes.
I said, and that doesn't sound like God to me. I said, so first off, God didn't take your baby. First off. So let's get that straight first off. And I said, and without God, I wouldn't be standing here today telling you what I'm telling you right now, because of God, That's how I made it through. And that's how you're going to make it through. He's going to give you the strength. He's going to give you the peace. He's going to give you the understanding by and by. He may not give it to you today, but if you just keep standing and keep believing, you'll get it. Because if I wasn't a Christian and if I wasn't saved, I would not have made it without losing my mind. And that's a fact. But God, because I believed in God and because I still stood on the word, even after what happened with my baby, that's why I'm still able to stand here today or sit here today and tell you what I'm telling you. Even though I have tears in my eyes, I'm still going to tell you that God is faithful and I trust him.
Amen.
With everything in me. And I'm going to continue to trust him because I couldn't have done it by myself. I couldn't have done it if I didn't have God. I mean, it took a whole lot of prayer. I came to Dominique's house and fell in her front door.
Literally
Fell face forward in her front door. And she prayed me up off the floor.
Mm.
And this is the first time I've said this out loud in front of people.
Yeah.
And the person that was with me that brought me to her house when I fell on her floor, she transitioned just a year ago, and we were friends, but she was my cousin. But she was more than just a cousin to me. We were really, really, really close. We all were, but we were really close. And it's just like death was just coming from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere, from every angle. As soon as I say, all right, well, I think I can stand up today, then here it comes again. Well, I think I can stand up this week. Here it comes again. And it just kept coming. And I'm like, Lord, like, when is there going to ever be a break? Even when I went off to work in another city or someplace else, I was working. And when I got the phone call about Dominique, I about lost my mind. And I'm just like, what in the world? Just like she said, we live next door to each other. Our children played together. Our children rode places. I took them places together. They did everything together. Like she said, it wasn't planned that we lived next door to each other, but we lived next door to each other. It just happened. And our children were together all the time, in the neighborhood together all the time. And it's something that we really don't understand, but God.
Yes.
But God. It's just the only thing we can say, but God. And I am so glad that God gave Dominique the strength and the vision to do what she's doing, because I couldn't have done it. I could not have done it that early. I could not have done it. And to say that she was the shy one of the group, and now she's always standing up talking in front of people, and I'm just like, this ain't nothing but God, because we couldn't get her to do nothing in front of people. And now she's talking and singing and all this stuff in front of people, and I stand proud and I smile because that's my friend and I've known her forever, and I see how God is just doing miraculous things in her life to be able to take Hello Again and go through her own trip, her own trials, and be able to help other people. And it just amazes me, and I'm just so proud, and I'm just so glad that she's able to do it, and she has a platform to do it on, and that she's able to be a blessing to other people in spite of.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a God thing. It's a God thing for real. Because, like, I still don't remember how I found Dominique. I don't remember how we reached out, that initial, messaging and then our phone calls. I don't recall, other than fact, like, I know without a doubt it was God. And then Hello Again, and the rainbow, and the day of Paige's wake funeral. Now I'm talking the day of her wake. On the way there was the first time in my life. I was in my late 30s, and that's not true. That's not true. I've got to think about this. I wasn't even 30. I was 27. Anyway, I'm old now. And we were driving to the funeral home, and it was the first time in my life I'd ever seen a full rainbow from one side of the highway to the other. And I have a picture artwork that Paige had drawn that was published in Calendar, and it's for the Children's Cancer Fund. And now I'm trying to tell you, I can't remember, but it was something rainbow. In the artwork, she had drawn a rainbow, and she said the reason she drew one is because she thought they were beautiful and she had never seen one. And then, so that's one of my signs. That's the Hello Again I don't know what you want to call it, logo.
Mhm.
And then, you know, the story with your boys and the rainbows, like it's all gone.
It
There's,
is.
it's
Yeah.
still hard to understand, and that, you know, I don't think we could. There's just certain things that can at least bring comfort, and I think it's all him, or we wouldn't be here. And you're not alone, Tab. I mean, there's just no other way.
One
And
thing I want to say about that, and what you just said while it's fresh on my mind, the logo, the rainbow, for those that are watching, and you always wonder what is why the rainbow. And I know that, you know, in the LGTB community, that's their logo as well. But I remember my bishop saying a few months ago, and I had never thought about it like this. I'm so grateful to God now. When he said it, it shook me to my core. He said, Sister Dominique, you know, we thank the Lord for you because you're taking the rainbow back. And I said, God, thank you, Father. But how that originated, the day of my son's accident, the day literally when we were in the ambulance with Marquise. Well, Marquise was already gone with the girls. Me and Marquise and Bea was in the ambulance, and we were following behind, meeting the other ambulance at the hospital. And they still hadn't found Ion. They didn't find him then, and they hadn't never found him to this day. But anyway, a lady 2-3 years after the accident inboxed me, and she said, no, this was actually, I saw the message probably about a month or two after the accident, and 3 months later I decided to post about it, but I can't remember what, I think it was on my personal timeline. But she said, you don't know me and I don't know you, but I was on the beach that day. And she said, I think she was in Iowa. And she said, I was on the beach that day. And as soon as you guys pulled off in the ambulance, it was no storm, no clouds, no nothing. She said a big rainbow appeared from the mark where they found my key set and from the other mark where they lost sight of my eye, straight across the whole sky. Beautiful day. It just appeared out of nowhere. And even the sermon that was preached at their homegoing celebration service, when he talked about how the Lord, he met them where they were, and how he literally, if you use your imagination, walked on that water and just did what God does. What we won't understand, it's a mystery, but it's a beautiful blessing, and it's bittersweet, and the spirit understands. But you know, your flesh and your spirit often war, because we human and we gonna feel this thing when you lose your child. But when he preached that about, you know, God wasn't too late, he was right on time. And then about that rainbow, it all tied in together. And one thing I'm so proud tonight to say, we all have said that our children be the Lord. Because when my sons were transitioning, my daughter, I often tell the story when I can, or if someone asks, and she told me, you know, we were screaming and hollering, but the boys, my brothers, what Marquise was saying, and Scooby was saying, she said, they were saying, Jesus save us the whole time. You know, they were out far back in the sea. And they weren't calling for me, but that's just what's down on the inside of you. And for those that are watching, when you get under pressure, what's in you going to come out. And so
Amen.
thing that, even though they had their personalities, and like the one said, they're not perfect. They weren't perfect, but they knew the perfect one. So I'm so proud to know that their last words was Jesus save us. And he did just that. He did just that. I don't understand it. I don't even agree with it. I have to accept their transition every day. This is a situation, this journey, you have to accept it every day. It ain't something you do one time. I have to choose to get up every day and put my clothes on. I have to choose to think something different and positive every day. It's a choice. It's not something you do one time at the funeral, something you do one time when you're encouraged to do so. This is a lifestyle now. I still have to literally get up with every breath in me, what little bit it is, or how shallow it is, say, God, I choose life today, and my sons will want that. It's easier said than done. It's not no cakewalk, I can tell you that. And sometimes I talk a little bit too much. I want to go wide open and always busy because I'm trying to process still. What happened was, like Tab was talking about, the spiritual Novocaine. When that thing started to wear off, and that heart, you can feel that heartache every time you breathe. And in the middle of the night, you got night sweat, so you ain't sleeping and you ain't eating, and you're tired all the time, your muscles ache. I ain't never had this many health problems before. That's because you're dealing with PTSD, and some of you are dealing with it and it's undiagnosed, and it's affecting your health. It's affecting your heartbeat. Some of us are having heart palpitations, and I talked about this in another video, but I'm reiterating because for those who hadn't seen it, this thing will mess with your joints. It'll mess with your muscles. It causes some people to have heart attacks. I've heard where a lot of parents have passed away due to heartbreak. So this thing is real. And if you're watching and you know someone who's lost a child, or it's your sister or your loved one or your brother, check on your people, because they can tell you all day they're okay, but I guarantee they ain't a lot of days. I do. I say I'm okay. A lot. I don't lie. You know, but that ain't always the truth. And if you know them, you know it ain't time. We just gonna deal with this thing so long to sometimes I feel like, why repeat it? You know, you already know. I don't want to keep reiterating. This is what it is. So, you know, I don't want to, you know, push anybody away during those times when we were talking about lashing out earlier in the video, but we have to try to get it under control. See a therapist, see somebody before you get yourself in a space where you're isolated. That's where the enemy works best at. When you're alone, play with your mind, your imagination. He sends suggestive thoughts that sound like you. You could have did this, and if you were there, why you let them ride with them? Why weren't you closer? Or why didn't you cancel her to make you feel like you wasn't a good parent? And then when you get to that part of feeling that low, he gonna put his foot on your neck and suffocate you while you're down there. So it's important to talk about it and let people know I'm struggling today. Even if you got to say it for 6 months straight, I'm struggling. You let somebody know so we can intercede for prayer. We offer free grief counseling to our parents. It's not utilized as often as I would like for it to be because it's there, and I know how therapeutic counseling is. I go to psychotherapy now and grief counseling at the same time, sometimes 2-3 times in a week if I need to. And that's how I get through, because I can't do this by myself. That thing, your mind, like Amy was saying, that little that movie reel,
Yep.
yeah, I see my kids sometimes, like Tab was talking about that life support, that break me down, because I wanted to do something. And as a mom, to see your child laying like that, helpless, and you can't do nothing, and we are fixers and nurturers by nature, that kills you. There's nothing you can do. You're not in control. And one thing about grief, and one thing about what we're dealing with when you lose a child or lose a loved one like that, you don't have control. You, for the first time, some of us are realizing you ain't in control of anything. You gotta surrender, and we find that so hard to do, to lay it on the table and say, God, whatever you're doing, I accept, because we want to fix it. We want to control the situation. We feel like if we can control the variables of things, then we can make it better and we can prevent happening. You can't. That's life. It's a risk. We're here. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's why you got to put it all on the table today. You love somebody, you want to hug them, whatever the case may be, lay it on the table today, because tomorrow is definitely not promised. And I just appreciate all of you ladies for taking the time to come on here tonight to minister, watching, you know, about our children, in the hopes that it helped them know that they're not alone, and this thing is raw and real and candid, and it hurt like hell, all of it, you know, and still say, but I'm a believer. That's a miracle. For us to be able to be in our right mind, and I say it all the time, to have complete sentences is a miracle. And we need to do it more unapologetically, more giving them voices, more saying their names, because they were here and they deserve that spot. We're their moms, we're the heartbeat, and keep their legacy going on. And I'm so proud to know that at all of our children homegoing celebrations, people gave their lives to the Lord. That's the truth. We had pure church.
Yes, God.
Beautiful. We had church. I mean, I remember to this day the sermon was I am the Father.
Who's your baby daddy?
God, Pastor Merritt preached that thing. He said, I am the Father. Who is your daddy? That's what he said. It was powerful. So when they left here, when they left physically, when their physical bodies left us, they went out with God all the way to the end. So it's up to us to live a life so that we can see them again. And that's my hope. Everybody who's watching, This was powerful on tonight. I encourage you to watch the replay, share it, because we all had gold nuggets to share. Shonda, you're new to this. So I send my heart to you right now. I wish I could hug you. I know it's hard. You're 9 months in. That's the time it takes to have a whole baby. And you're processing the fact of losing yours. This is not easy for you. I can't sit here and tell you it's going to get better. You, like Tab said, you're going to be able to tolerate it. And you'll have good days where you smile and you can feel his presence. But it's okay. It's okay to fall apart. And we often talk about the word strong. We talked about it on one of our lives last week. I don't want to hear that no more. I am strong. God is the power source. Through him, we receive our strength.
Yes.
It's not that we're strong. We're using a supernatural strength that don't belong to us. He's lending it to us. We're welcoming it. Because I am not near strong. I feel like Clark Kent every day. But because God, because of his power source and giving it to us and us choosing to receive it, we're where we are now. And such a blessing. If you have lost a child, please encourage someone to join our family. Let us love on you. Let us serve you and help to build you up so we can build each other up as a community. You want to say, if you wanted to, or you're wondering how you can sow a seed, please go to the Cash App, Hello Again / I think somewhere, but it's in here. I put it here. It's Hello Again Dominique. I think it is. But this is what it's for. We give back to our families all the time. You can go scroll down the timeline to see what we do during the holidays. We do stuff behind the scenes that you don't know about. We bless our moms with the card ministry all the time. We want to be able to do what we're doing, which is we provide free counseling to the families, but you best believe it's costing somebody something to do that. You know, we want to make sure that we can be to these, when you lose a child, your bereavement week, we can send groceries like we do, or pay a bill for you for the first month. Because as all of you know who are watching, if you've lost a child, and especially you ladies who are on the panel tonight, when you first go through that bereavement week, you don't go nowhere. You don't think about work. You don't even care if you have work again in your life. You just want to transition with your own child.
Or pay a bill.
Yes, you don't think about going to work, cooking, groceries. So that money helps. You know, it helps to be able to provide groceries for the family for the month or however. We like being a blessing. So, and one other thing I want everybody to touch on right quick before we go. When that funeral is over, people disappear and you're all alone. You got to live this thing. And I looked at the world like, how dare it keep spinning? My world stopped. My children lost their siblings. Their dad lost his legacy. He has no more sons. It's our boys, and no legacy anymore. My daughter's gonna grow up and get married. I don't know how he feels as a man, but it rips me apart to know, my God, you had a 17-year-old, and my aunt was gonna be 13 in a month. The life of the party, you know, he followed him around and just off the whole planet. That's hard on men, and they often close up, and it often destroys relationships and families. And this ain't no joke. It would tear you apart. So we need each other. You know, we need to pray for each other and be there, be the constant, because people do leave. So that's why I keep reiterating: call your people and check on them, even if it's 10 years, 9 months, 11 years, 22 years. 5 for me. We're going into the 5th year in July. I still need you. I still need the community. It ain't just a show because it was a public thing. Now the people gone. You still need that. You're gonna need it for the duration, as often as possible. You know, I know life happens. It's not your life, but I'm saying for my life, just send a prayer every now and again. That's all. Or just say, God bless Dominique. God bless Tab. God bless Amy. God bless Shonda. God bless Tawana. God bless the Hello Again family. I don't know what the mamas and daddies going through, but Lord, breathe on them today. They don't take but a second. If any one of you want to touch on that right quick before we go, please feel free to, whatever you want to say in your heart, please feel free while you have an opportunity.
I think that's good. For me, bedtime was the worst. Like nighttime, because I slept in the hospital bed with Paige. So, you know, late in the midnight hour, that's when my heart would crumble. So I think even to those listening, those that are aching, those that aren't, that are there for support, if you're person of faith and you say bedtime prayers nightly, then include those moms and those that have lost. Because for me, even now when I have my breakdowns, but especially when it was new, like Shonda, when it was new, that bedtime was the worst. And I cried myself to sleep for, gosh, weeks on end. I think that's good, Dominique, because you're right. And even though we might shut down post funeral, the effort is still needed. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many phone calls I tell my mama, I'll call them when I feel like it. I don't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
But you still got to reach out, because one day we will, and it'll be, it's God's timing. Like, girl, you don't know. I needed you more. This was right on time.
Yeah. Yeah. Shonda, what did you
I
want to say?
think that
I'm so sorry.
I,
No.
I think that is true. Like I said, during the time of the funeral, Rashad knew so many people, and there were just people for days. And with everybody leaving, that was hard. But I still have people that, sometimes out of the blue, and it's like God knows what he's doing. Because sometimes it's when I need it the most. I'll get a text, a phone call, or something to that nature. But just as, because of you have mentioned that I'm the youngest person here, and it definitely has been a journey. Been very, very bad place, here, there, and just sad, depressed. Some days I have just sat on my couch with my leg crossed, just not even want to. But I think I have willed myself not to want to do. I don't want to cry, and I still will. But I just don't want to cry. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel depressed. And I have asked God just to let me, at peace. And 9 months in, I feel like I'm in a good place. And I told Dominique before everybody else came, and I'm a little nervous because I don't want to fall back. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that I will never, ever, ever forget Rashad. And Tabitha mentioned, that it was hard for her at first to say his name, but I think I was raised in a family of tough love of men, and my daddy has always told us that once someone transitions, there's nothing else you can do for them.
Mm.
And so I don't had to offend anybody, but I want to say that as something that has helped me, and it helps me that Rashad lived a life that I can be proud of, and he touched and influenced so many lives. So I think knowing the person that he was gives me a lot of strength, because without God and knowing what he did, it would be hard. And I know Dominique has probably seen me share on her page
Mhm.
that there were two different things that he sent in text messages, but they were similar. And basically they said that we may not understand God's plan, but we have to trust it. And when we do that, I will get the glory, we'll get the joy, and people will get the story. So just in saying that, I feel like I'm sad that I have lost my child. We were good friends. I had Rashad when I was 20, so I feel like we're a sister and a brother. I was in the military, and my mom and daddy had him for the first 2 years of his life. So his bond was definitely with them. I just feel like there's purpose. And in my short time so far, there have been about 4 or 5 mothers in my area, and I couldn't have it any other way but to go to them.
Yes.
And I told them, like, I'm not healed. I'm not perfect. I can only tell you what I have experienced so far.
Mm.
So I just feel like there is this in this. And I told Dominique on the thing the other day that I appreciate this platform. And I just want to be. I believe that's what God would have, and I know that's what Rashad would like for me to do, is to help anybody that I can through this, because Rashad was a helper. Rashad, and I'll be quick and let I was the sports chaplain at the Citadel, graduated from the Citadel. He was the sports chaplain there, and he worked on fundraisers. So Rashad was broke. But I have heard stories of people saying Rashad gave them this, Rashad gave them that, and I don't know where Rashad got the money from, but Rashad did not. He just gave whatever he gave. And my niece is going to counseling now, and it was so funny because she did a presentation for her grief counseling, and she said he used Papa's money to help others. I just want to serve my and help who I can through this trip as I help myself.
Well, I think you just made us laugh. I can tell you that. And for y'all, if y'all hadn't seen, scroll up, go on the Hello Again page and read what she posted words. It was incredible. I read all of them. I read every mom. I'm getting to know the angels, very acquainted with them, and honestly, some of their children, I think I can sense them or something. Like Amy was saying, my boys, they be weren't Amy to get to send my mom a message, because Amy has a gift. She don't like to talk about it, but she does. Tell my mom this, and she tell me, and I'm like, she couldn't have known that. It's some stuff Amy has shared with me. Nobody know but me and my children. So with that being said, it's a beautiful thing when I get a gift like that. The other day they spoke to her to give me a message, and I needed it, and it was simply as tell mom she needs to eat breakfast and get some eggs and bacon in that skillet. Oh, I can hear them so much when she texted me and said it, not called, she texted me. I was like, I hadn't been eating. My appetite is poor. I hadn't been eating breakfast. I've been weak and just my appetite. When you grieving hard, you have my moments where I don't have an appetite. I haven't been taking care of myself. I haven't been sleeping good. And it was like they were letting her know I needed to take care of myself. Tell my mom she needed to eat. You best believe I've been getting eaten. Eggs. My sons told me to eat. I felt so Amy, I'm telling you, thank you. Thank you for being obedient and giving me that. Rashad, I know you can hear us. Thank you for the laughter. All of it. Malik is encouraging us to stay in the faith, and Brian is encouraging us to root for the underdog. Check on people.
Yes.
Love on people.
That's right.
Collaborate. It's because of our children that we're here. Hey, Miss Shonda, I need you to get in touch with my mama. My mama named Dominique. I find her. Do something. I can sense it. So some days I get other people's children, just coming through somehow, because I guess we're connected. I'm connected through the group, especially Neva. I don't know if Neva's watching, but her son, it's something about him with me. I don't know what it is, but he loves fire trucks. And every time, if it's something off and I hear fire truck, I'll text Neva, and it's something going on with her. So it's connections here. This is not no coincidence. Everybody's child, they know each other better than we do. So they're trying to push us to healing. Ain't God good? He's so divine. Look how big this is. We got over 1,500 moms in different states that coming together that never knew each other before and encouraging each other, and like, hey, my son, I felt this, or my daughter, I felt this, or my baby. And that's because God is still raising them, and they're trying to get us healing and say, we okay. We want y'all to be okay. And it's not easy, but I appreciate the comfort, what I'm saying. So this has been beautiful in the end. We're going to keep our children's names alive, because they're certainly working where they are to make sure we stay okay and we stay connected and we stay coming together. So if you've never been to a fellowship of ours or a conference, we in the planning stages right now. For 2021, it's going to be off the chain. So make sure you get your tickets. It's going to be huge again. We're going to dress up and honor our angels again. And this year, next year, February is coming up. It's going to be all white. All in Planet East with our angels, and we're going to be busting it all white. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss that. So we're going to celebrate our children. If you have never been to a conference, I promise you will never forget it if you come to at least one. We do honor our children. We go out with a bang with them. They're very much present there. We make sure that you can feel your child. Everybody can go find their child in some place in that room. That's a fact. So I won't say too much of anything, but we're in the planning stages right now. So make sure you look out for that to come. We're trying to make sure this pandemic, everybody can get vaccinated, whatever the case, before we host such a huge event like that. But it's coming. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us on tonight. Thank you, Shonda. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mr. Warner. Thank you, Tab. I couldn't have did this without you ladies. This was phenomenal. I feel lifted,
Amen.
especially now, because I know that they're collaborating, and it's a beautiful thing. So we hope that this has blessed you guys on tonight. Thank you for allowing us to come into your living rooms, come on your phones, your smartphones, your computer screens, and just be able to be a blessing to you, to uplift you in some sort of way. Hello Again is alive and it's well, and it's going to be here to the duration till I leave here. My daughter will take it over after that. Her daughter
Amen.
will take it over after that, but it's going to be going as long as thus saith the Lord. And as long as my keys and my young mama sit here, it's going to be going. So I
Amen.
know all of your angels. Oh, I've gotten so acquainted with them. Keep sharing them so we can get to know them. Keep sharing them. Keep sharing them. So thank you guys for watching on tonight. I love you ladies to life. I appreciate you for those who commented. You guys have a good night, and please share this video with somebody and like this video. Let's get it circulating so that we can reach more people and so we can help our children help us. So with that being said, y'all have a good night. I love you ladies, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
Hi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, y'all. Thank y'all for watching.